Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Minnesota Real Estate Show. Thanks for joining us here today. It is Saturday, the 21st, October the 21st, and we're live here 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. at News Talk 830 WCCO every Saturday for the Minnesota Real Estate Show, hosted by Mr. Mike Overson, right in the middle with the blue shirt, Mr. Mike with Luminate Home Loans, Scott Wolmering, and myself, Ryan O'Neill of the Minnesota Real Estate Team REMAX Advantage Plus. In studio today, we've got Steve Stalock. Steve joining us as well. Steve, Mike, good morning to you guys.
Good morning, Ryan.
Good morning. We got a great show coming up for you here today. Again, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. You can join us commenting on the social media stream wherever you might be catching us: LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Thanks for joining us. It is an interactive show. We always welcome your questions, comments, thoughts. Mike, a lot to talk about today.
Yeah, we always got a lot to talk about. This industry is always changing, and we always get new stuff thrown at us, it seems like, on a weekly basis. So we'll cover, an interest rate update, what the latest news is there. We'll talk about home buyers and home sellers and the market that we're in for them. And then we'll take any questions live during the show as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, 612-294-6949 is how you can join us at any point. And again, excited to be on WCCO. It's now every Saturday morning, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. You can still catch all of our podcasts at mnrealestateshow.com. Up in the top right-hand corner is our podcast location where you can click on those to catch all of them. But Steve, appreciate you joining us today, bud. Thanks for being here.
Hey, it's a nice fall day. We're looking forward to a few seasonably, what do you call it? Nice.
Yeah.
days. And so get out and take advantage of this nice weather.
Yeah. A lot of people questioning too. We're going to talk whether it is a buyer's market. Live here. We're going live on CCO right now. Thanks again for joining us. Well, good morning. Welcome to the Minnesota Real Estate Show. Thank you for joining us, everybody. Hope your weekend is starting off well. This is the Minnesota Real Estate Show every Saturday morning from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. It is a show hosted by Mike Overson of Luminate Home Loans, Scott Wolmering, and myself, Ryan O'Neill of the Minnesota Real Estate Team REMAX Advantage Plus. Excited to be here at CCO. Again, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. We talk all things real estate related, mortgage related. Today in studio, Steve Stalock with Win Home Inspection, home inspection related. And we welcome your questions, comments, thoughts at any point. 612-294-6949 is how you can join us. Again, 612-294-6949 by phone or by text, or of course you can always use the CCO talk and text line as well. Mike, good morning to you there, bud.
Yeah, good morning to you, Ryan.
Lots going on in the mortgage world, and appreciate you being here as always.
Yeah. I was either going to be at a soccer game today with 7-year-olds or on the radio show, and the soccer got canceled, so I was able to make the show today, and so I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, Very good stuff. And a lot, again, a lot going on in the mortgage world. Let's dive in. This first segment, we always like to do a mortgage update, real estate update. Tell me what's going on, Mike.
Yeah. So on the mortgage side of things, interest rates still the hot topic as far as mortgages go. So let's start there. So current rates, you're looking. In the next few months. But I think just inflation is just too much of a beast. It doesn't move that fast. So I think we're going to be hovering around this area for a while. And then moving into the spring, I think we do see rates start coming down at that point.
And when is the next Fed meeting that they talked about, the Fed meeting and how that impacts interest rates?
Yeah. Next Fed meeting, I don't know the exact date, but the next Fed meeting is going to be probably coming up here in like 3 weeks or so. So we'll have to see what happens there. Now, Powell did talk a little bit on Friday at one of their other meetings, and on Thursday for one of their other meetings, and that was actually positive news that he brought to the table, and that's why Friday we had a good day in the market and rates went down a little bit. So we'll just have to see what happens here. The Fed's kind of, it's funny how interest rates work. It's the market reacts to what someone says. It's not necessarily data driven. Like, here's the data and here's what's happening with GDP and here's what's happening with inflation and stuff. It's almost like they make their moves based on a feeling or a comment made by the Fed. So if the Feds come out and say, yeah, we think inflation is where we want it to be and it's heading in the right direction at the speed we want it to head, the market's going to get better. Even though the data might not support that, if they just say that, it'll get better.
Again, you can join our discussion at any point, 612-294-6949. That comes right to the studio here. And we're live every Saturday here at CCO for the Minnesota Real Estate Show. In the first segment, Mike, we also like to touch on just a real estate update to give you an idea of what we're seeing for activity here in the Twin Cities. And these are year over year numbers. So when we're looking at new listings that have come on the market, new listings are down 4.4%. There were 1,226 new properties that came on the market. Pending sales or accepted purchase agreements are down slightly. They actually were up this past week, 2.3% increase. There were 836 pendings. And then the overall inventory is down almost 8% year over year, 8,740. So it's interesting, Mike, again, seeing year over year, a few more pendings. Again, if we look historically for the year to date in the Twin Cities, closed sales are down about 20%. So there's about 20% less closed transactions in the Twin Cities. And across the board, I would say buyers, sellers, agents, mortgage professionals, title companies, everybody's feeling that 20% drop.
Yeah, absolutely. And it makes sense, with where interest rates are at and with where home prices have gone. There was a lot of talks earlier this year, even last fall, of, with interest rates being where they're at, up in the 7s towards 8%, home prices have to come down. I haven't seen that a whole lot. They might have come down in some areas. There's some seasonal, slowdown too, as far as list price goes. But I can guarantee prices have not dropped what people thought they would drop with interest rates like this. And the reason why is A, inventory is low. And B, you have to remember a 7 to 8% interest rate is not out of the norm. If you look at the last 40 years, the average 30-year fixed interest rate is 8.25%.
So it's not like we're in an abnormal time for interest rates and they've never been here before and people don't know what to do. I mean, we've had interest rates at 8%, going as early or as recent as 2001. Now that's a ways away, right? That was a while ago. But there's been several points in history where we've been at interest rates here. So it's nothing new. So it'll be interesting to see here what happens in the winter. I still think it's going to be a big spring market coming up.
Yeah, again, when you look at actual prices, again, year to date, the median sales price right now is $370,305, and that's up 2.2%. So year over year, up slightly. And again, that may be hard for people to understand or believe. Now, that doesn't mean that everything's selling super quickly and there's multiple offers and the market is the same as during COVID. The COVID time period when it was pretty frenetic as far as buyers and offers and that. And maybe after our first break, we can dive in to talk a little bit more about that. We've got Steve Stalock, Win Home Inspection, here to all of your home related questions. Steve, you are the guy.
Yeah, and you talk about business transactions and pendings being down. This year's a little bit different than last, where it was very frantic last year where my business was way down. That's not the case. My business has come back. So home buyers are now able to get an inspection. So I've seen a bit of an uptick.
Good. You deserve it.
Thanks.
You deserve it. Hey, we appreciate you joining us here on the Minnesota Real Estate Show. Every Saturday, we're here on CCO. You can join us by calling or texting at 612-294-6949, 612-294-6949, or you can use the normal CCO talk and text line too. We're excited to be here. This is WCCO. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Social media, we're grateful. Good morning to folks. Mike, Steve, you guys look good on camera.
That's good to know.
Thanks for the compliment, Ryan. Appreciate it.
So, what do you think about gutters right now? And this is kind of the season. The leaves, leaves falling, clogged gutters, getting. What are you seeing with your inspections?
I'm seeing the gutters plugged.
Right.
And this is absolutely the time to be thinking about your winterization projects. I was talking on the way up with our producer here about all the yard work that needs to be done, and we are right in the middle of it. Unless your gutters equal good. Gutters are a good thing. A lot of people hate them, but unless you have a good cover over them, they require some maintenance, and you got to get up and clear them out.
Yeah. Mike, are you seeing with FHA loans and what they require for some of the fix-it items? Are you seeing much of that specifically coming back from FHA deals where they're asking for multiple things to be fixed?
Nothing out of the ordinary. We definitely see more FHA loans being done now. We definitely see more VA loans being done now. Is there anything out of the ordinary? Anything? It's kind of what I would expect they would call out for, to be honest with you. So there's no change there. Different just because conventional loans just dominated the market for so long. But as we see more FHAs and VAs come around, you're going to see that they're going to call for some repairs and things like that. But it's normal. They haven't made those restrictions tight or anything.
And what percent of your deals the last couple of months have been FHA or even VA?
So if we look back in the COVID years, I mean, there was probably 97% conventional and 3% FHA and VA. Right now, if I had to just look at our last couple months, I would say we're probably at 10 to 15% are FHAs and VAs, maybe 20%. So it's come back pretty well.
Yeah, again, interesting stuff. Steve, so I wonder if that's common with a home inspection business for others, that it's up as well. What are you hearing amongst your fellow inspectors?
Well, I'm hearing less complaining. So last year, a lot of times you can tell what's going on by what's not happening.
Oh, sure.
So last year, a lot of inspectors were angry at the market, right?
Sure.
Well, there's nothing you can do about it other than market differently. And I'm not seeing that kind of complaint anymore.
Okay.
So we're back to closer to a normal routine market. I don't know what percentage of transactions are able to negotiate an inspection. I'm still hearing that there are multiples happening out there,
Yeah.
but it's not at the pace it used to be.
Had a comment come in. Why buy in this market? Mike, thoughts? Why buy in this market?
I think if you wait, you're going to pay more for the house.
Okay, and tell me more.
So I'll tell you more. So when you buy a house, there's two costs to buy the house, right? There's the cost of the house itself, and there's the cost of the financing to get it. Now, if you're a cash buyer, you only have one cost, the cost of the house itself. I truly believe if you have the ability to buy today, or you're going to sign another year lease and you're going to buy a year from now, you're going to pay anywhere from 2 to 4% more for that house a year from now than today. So why buy now? You buy now because it's cheaper to buy now than waiting another year to buy.
So lower price, and then the argument with interest rates.
Well, if you wait for interest rates to come down before you buy, well, then you're going to have that much more people jumping in at that same time. Oh, interest rates are at a spot now where I'm going to buy too.
We're going back live on air. Sorry to interrupt you. We'll keep chatting. Hey, welcome back to the Minnesota Real Estate Show. Thanks for joining us. Hope your weekend is going well, everybody. Excited to be here at CCO. Each week, we do like to feature some of our listings from the Minnesota Real Estate team and RE/MAX Advantage Plus. The first one we want to touch on, Brian Amundson has one at 16203 Excelsior Drive in Rosemont for $360,000. It's a 3-bed, 2-bath, 3-level home. It's in the great school district of 196. It is a modern, Brian says, a modern and well-maintained home with a recently updated kitchen. It's got a private fenced 0.32 acre lot with 2 flagstone patios, finished lower level with a great family room, a 3/4 bath, lots of updates, including new renewal by Andersen windows in all 3 bedrooms, new windows in both living areas, a brand new water heater. Brian just says it's a perfect family home situated, easy access to schools, parks, shoppings, and restaurants. Check that out. That is in Rosemont, 16203 Excelsior Drive for $360,000. Prior to this, we were talking a little bit on our social media stream about the question came in: why buy now? Why not wait? Interest rates are at 8%. And Mike, the first comment you said is you feel that
So why buy now? Because I think you can buy a house for less today than a year from now. So a lot of people, when they ask that question, they're probably in the position of, hey, I can either buy today, or I can sign another year lease at my rental and I can buy a year from now. What would you rather do? I think you buy today. And the reason why is because I truly believe that if you wait a year from now for that same house you would buy today, you're going to pay 2 to 4% more. So first reason why to buy today, I think you can buy the house at a better price.
Yeah. How about the interest rate question, though? Then people say, well, look, hey, a couple of years ago, interest rates were at 3. They're now at 8. I want to just let things settle out here. I want to figure out what's going on here, Mike, a little bit. Give me some time to reflect.
So that's a common thought today. So here's what's going to happen. If you buy today, when rates go down, you refinance and you grab that lower rate. Now you got a better price for the house and you got a better rate on your loan. You kind of got a double win there. Yeah, you had to stomach the higher rate for who knows how long, a year, 2 years, 3 years. We'll have to see. We don't know. But eventually you're going to have the cheaper house or the cheaper price in the house, and you're going to have the lower interest rate. Now, if you wait for interest rates to go down, what's going to happen is there's a lot of other people with that same thought, right? So as soon as rates hit a certain point, they're like, all right, rates are down now, where now I want to jump in the pool and I want to be in the buyer game again. Well, now you're going to be competing against with more buyers. And we all learned that lesson during the COVID years. Now you're going to be paying 20, 30, 40 grand more for the house because you got that many more buyers you got to compete against.
Yeah, you have to remember again that in this market, we still have almost a historically low inventory of homes. As an agent and broker, I get emails daily from different fellow agents and companies in the Twin Cities. Hey, we have like 6 buyer needs. We're looking for this type of property, this type of property. And so it's interesting again, because we've got such low inventory in so many areas, but we do see some sellers still really stretching for a price. So in other words, maybe they have overpriced significantly in many cases, sometimes not as much. But I'm seeing that very common, but I'm also seeing some poor presentation of the property. You have to remember that pictures are important. Nordy Photography is one of our great partners, live on air partners here with the show. Presentation is super important. I've seen a couple listings recently with very poor photos, and I think sellers, the natural thing is we get kind of comfortable saying, hey, my home's going to sell in a day or two. Now we're finding it's taking longer. Buyers are not simply going to pay 10 grand over for anything out there. So presentation is important. Marketing is important. Pictures are important. Those are all things as the Minnesota real estate team, Mike, that we do, we focus on.
Yeah, I have noticed that buyers are pickier in today's market, and one of the reasons why is because their thought process is like, look, if I'm going to be paying almost 8% for an interest rate, and this is what my payment's going to be in this house, then I want this thing to be perfect.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
So that's kind of the thought process now. So as a seller, you just the best thing to do is try to put yourself in that buyer's shoes and try to think like a buyer would, and then you can understand kind of where they're coming from, and then attack your listing with your agent from there.
Yeah, 612-294-6949 is how you can join us here at the Minnesota Real Estate Show. In studio today, we've got Steve Stalock, Win Home Inspection. Steve has been a longtime partner with our show. He is a home inspector. He knows the ins and outs of everything related to houses. Appreciate you always being here with us, Steve.
Hey, it's great to be here on a wonderful fall morning.
It is
Yeah.
a beautiful fall morning indeed. What are you seeing with your home inspections? Common items for people in those home inspections, for existing homeowners or people maybe looking to buy a home?
Well, two things I guess I'd touch on. First, we are approaching the winterization time. So I'm seeing a lot of things where people haven't really jumped on, that bandwagon yet and taken on and, winterize, turn off the outside water, get your sprinkler systems blown out, that kind of thing. And the other thing that I typically see is just deferred or undiscovered maintenance issues where, we've been living in the house for 30 years and we had no idea this is going on. So I would put a lack of awareness as a very common thing that I see inspection after inspection.
Yeah, question came in. Again, you can join us by texting 261-294-6949. Text came in saying, are you seeing many sellers pre-inspect the home itself?
No, and they should. I get some of that. And I actually have an example. I inspected a home this past summer for a really nice home in Savage, and they discovered some moisture issues on the exterior before they put it on the market, and they're able to, it's a hard pill to swallow, but you get that corrected before you put that house on the market.
Okay. Yeah. Really good question. Again, we are seeing some of that. I know there was a question even this week within the team, Mike, people had asked that question, sellers maybe trying to in advance solve issues that could come up after the inspection. Again, with most buyers doing an inspection, it's a way to kind of proactively fix things.
Yeah. And there's a lot of comments about that too. And I think in general, it's probably a pretty good idea. Attack and address the problems before they even become a problem, right? With any buyers that might come to your door, and you're sitting a lot better.
I would say if your house is 15 to 20 years old and, even though you've been maintaining it at that point, that's when houses begin to develop things where it's like, oh, I had no idea that's going on.
Steve, what other tips do you have? Thoughts for either buyers going through the home inspection process or existing homeowners?
Well, buyers don't skip an inspection. One call that I'm getting frequently is, hey, Steve, we bought a house a month ago, and could you come over and tell us what we got ourselves into because we waived the inspection?
Interesting.
I'm getting a regular dose of those kind of calls. Other advice,
just for existing
Yeah,
homeowners.
existing homeowners, walk around your house as if you were a potential buyer, be critical of your own house.
Hmm.
I think a lot of people are a little more defensive or accepting of conditions on their house. You really need to walk around it and say, I don't know if I'd buy this house because of, and look at that. Stick your head up in the attic. You have no idea what might be lurking up there.
Yeah, good
Yeah.
stuff. We're up against the halfway point break of the Minnesota Real Estate Show. Before we do break, though, we had one other listing I wanted to touch on. John Love, a great agent with the Minnesota Real Estate team and Remax Advantage Plus, has one in New Prague at 580 Rolling Meadows Lane, southeast in New Prague, for $489,900. And John describes it. It's a touch of country. It's only a half mile from town in the quiet Rolling Meadows neighborhood. It has over 3,000 finished square feet, 4 beds, 2 baths. It's got a cozy sunroom, views of the great backyard, large open kitchen, main level laundry, home office. It also has 3 fireplaces. There you go, Mike. A large 24 by 26 attached garage and an additional one stall built-in garage. Updated bathrooms in 2014. The roof and the furnace were replaced in 2021. New water softener 2022. And then the last item, he just said, enjoy evenings on the wraparound deck, gazebo, and front porch. Beautiful home. Again, check out the pictures, even online. 580 Rolling Meadows Lane, southeast in New Prague for $489,900. This is the Minnesota Real Estate Show on News Talk 830 WCCO. Thanks for joining us, everybody here. Appreciate it. Hi, Scott. Nice to see you.
Let's hear it.
That's it.
Been doing the show at 10 o'clock. I thought it was at 11.
Yeah, nice to see you. Scoot over a little bit tighter so we can get
Okay.
Steve in the window here
Got it.
as well. But Steve, so that is interesting though that you are getting calls from buyers in that
Yeah.
capacity.
Yeah, the market is always changing, and all I can say is I'm really glad I'm not a realtor. Having to deal with so many changes, and trying to have your business flow. For me, a house is a house, but the way that the buyers are responding has been changing, and I am seeing, someone. It's like, Steve, we closed on last Monday. Can you get over here and take a look and tell me what I got myself into? That's a regular phone call I'm getting.
Interesting stuff. Mike, you're looking at some numbers there, I can tell.
Well, I was looking at our forecast because this is the time of year where you might be 60 degrees, you might be 30 degrees. I see starting next Sunday, we got 4 days in a row where our temps are going to be below freezing. Actually, 5 days in a row.
Oh, great.
Starting the Sunday right before Halloween, we got freezing temps. So
Get your sprinkler systems blown out. One thing as I'm going through with my inspection information, I will, when you're buying a house and you're ready to move in, the last thing on your mind is that you have to winterize a house. And I really emphasize that right now. Your closing date is going to be November 3rd. Last thing on your mind is making sure the outside water's turned off. And that could be very disastrous. Previous seller, they didn't winterize, and you move in, and all of a sudden you got icicles going on. You got to take care of that.
Yeah, interesting.
And by now, everybody should have had it blown out.
It is a season. I'm seeing the trucks with the air compressors up and down every street right now. But again, if you're selling a house or if you're buying, you're in transition and you're taking care of other things, and some things like that are getting forgotten.
Love the comment. Dan just said experienced agents doing it right will matter again. That's a really good point, to have experienced agents knowing what they're doing, helping buyers and sellers. We're going to see more of that, Scott, too.
Yeah, well, I don't know what the numbers are, but maybe you do, Mike. But I think we've lost upwards of almost 2,000 agents this last year.
oh yeah, that wouldn't probably
Well,
In the
I'm
city?
talking about in the cities. 'Cause
last for sure. I'd
like the
say,
last
yeah.
numbers I heard were like 1,600. That was a few months ago. And so, yeah, I think we're going to dwindle it down to the people that can hang in there. And I agree with what Dan said. Agents that bring value are going to be ahead of the game again.
Yeah, Mike, from a mortgage standpoint, again, you brought up the interest rates. Do you think interest rates are going to come down next year?
I do next year.
And why?
I think they're going to come down. I think election year is going to be one reason why. I think that's home affordability has to be on the radar, right? At this point, I can't imagine that it's not for any of the presidential candidates, because home prices have continued to go up. Now we have higher interest rates, and now milk, gas, food, all that is higher too. I mean, it's just that the cost to live is so much more expensive, that one thing that they can somewhat control is, what happens with interest rates. So I think that's going to be on the docket and a big topic next year, especially for all the presidential candidates. And I think it's going to come down. And I just think too, I think inflation's heading in the right direction as well. So even if there's no Fed involvement in interest rates, I think the pace that inflation is coming down at is going to cause rates to go down too.
Well, yeah, since 2000 in the Twin Cities, and we're about mid-pack in the nation, we're up 300% in home values since 2000. I mean, think about that. That is just a ton of lost affordability,
Right.
Because wages have not gone up even.
Here we go. We're
Right.
going back live on CCO. Thanks for joining us. Welcome back to the second half of the Minnesota Real Estate Show. Hope your weekend is going well, everybody. Appreciate you joining us here on CCO. We were talking a little bit during the break on our social media stream about people leaving the industry, mortgage, real estate, title professionals leaving the industry. And we had a nice comment that experienced people doing this job right will matter again. And I think, that's so true. What has happened again during COVID, a lot of people got into the various industries, mortgage, real estate, title. And now we're seeing people leave the industry because, again, closed sales are down 20%. So, Scott, it will matter to have people who are doing it right.
Well, it will. And things like, and this is going to sound kind of kittywampus, but an agent in this market that is on top of it enough to suggest when you should do a price reduction. I mean, in the last 3 years, I think I've done 2 price reductions. In the last 6 months, I think I've done 4. And you really are doing your seller a service to stay on top of it so that they're ahead of the game, because there's no doubt at 8% interest rates or whatever we're at right now, everybody's taking a hit, and there's going to be a rebound where things are going to have to settle back. Either rates are going to have to come down, or we're going to have a settling in pricing. And at least with the listings I've got in particular neighborhoods, I would say has been a settling back in pricing. And if you don't get ahead of that, we don't know if it's going to get worse or if it's going to get better. But we know what you're dealing with right now, and you want to get it sold now.
Yeah, again, Steve Stalock, Win Home Inspection, you're doing great work. We're grateful for you. Other thoughts for our listeners here as we again talk all things home inspection related?
Well, I've talked about winterization. Another thing is we are coming into the heating season, and there are a lot of heating contractors that are running crazy right now, but put that on your calendar. Get your furnace inspected by a qualified licensed heating contractor. You don't want, the number of times I get into a house and I see a sticker that this furnace was installed on January 26th or December 26th or January 2nd. Like, those furnaces give out right when they shouldn't, right? So you don't want to be facing a holiday and needing to scramble and get a furnace installed. So I would get my system set up, checked out.
Yeah, we had a question that come in. Average days on market you guys are seeing in the Twin Cities. Right now, it's actually 34 days. And again, as we talked a little bit about, we're seeing, presentation of the property, super important. Photos, staging, cleanliness, pricing correctly. All of those things are really starting to matter again. During COVID, it seemed like those things did not matter as much. And so, Scott, we're seeing people maybe failing in one of those areas, and they're sitting on the market longer.
That's right. Well, and again, back to the experienced agents, the numbers are there. The numbers are there for everybody to see, your seller and for you. And you can look at the analytics and know whether you're positioned correctly or not. And I'll give you an example. You go on the market, and if you are a $350,000 townhome, you should have between 350 and 400 plus people that have saved the search to look at your style home. And if you're priced correctly and you go live on the market, you should see those numbers. And then you should see maybe 5 to 10 saved favorites, possibilities, etc. If you do that, if you put that home on the market at 350 and you only have 150 saved searches and you get no favorites, you don't have to go on the market. You're overpriced right now. I mean, it tells you right there. No one is interested. There's nobody that is even searching for what you've got. 150 people is very, very low. And so paying attention to that, and I can't think of a market except for maybe 2007, 2008, where pricing at this exact time is more important.
Yeah, pricing super important. Mike, you're crunching numbers over there. I love. What are you working on there?
All right, so this was a question that I kind of brought up that we should talk earlier is, you know, with a buyer maybe being able to pick up a house for less under list price, let's say, what's better? Do you take the lower price on the house, or do you still offer list price on the house, and do you ask the seller to contribute towards your closing costs, or maybe doing a rate buy down?
Do a rate buy down.
Right. And so the example I have is a $400,000 house. So 5% down, $400,000 house. Okay. If you pay $400,000 for that house and you have the seller take 15 grand, so you're going to get 15,000 bucks back from the seller. So the seller is netting 385. You take that 15 grand and buy your interest rate down. Your monthly payment for principal and interest is going to be $25.28.
Okay.
Okay. So now let's say, all right, you know what? I'm going to take that 15 grand from you, seller. I'm actually going to just reduce the price of the house. So I'm going to do a 385 price on the house, but I'm going to take today's interest rate, not do the rate buy down for it. Okay.
Okay.
Your monthly payment is $26.83.
So yeah, so 150 bucks more.
$150 difference there. So that $15,000, it's much more useful towards a rate buy down versus a price reduction on the house.
Which I would argue that very, very few sellers know that, and I would also argue that very, very few agents know that. But it does make sense. And then over the life of the loan, what it saves you in actual value is huge.
Right, right. And so that's one thing that you definitely want to keep in mind as a buyer right now. Lots of talks about rate buy downs. The power of the interest rate is huge. Take that money. If you think you can get the house for a lesser price, maybe just offer that list price and take what you were the difference between what you're gonna offer and what it's listed at. Use that money for a rate buy down, and it puts you in a better position.
Well, and along those lines, what you said earlier, that you think rates are going to go down next year, and we all hope that obviously happens. So the age-old question is, for people that are listening, should I buy now or should I wait for the rates to go down? Since we just talked about how important rates are. And now we take a little bit of a different turn, because you are still better off buying right now in October, November, December, beginning of January, than you are waiting, even if rates went down to 5%. Because what happens with a low inventory market and lower interest rates is home prices will soar. So let's say rates do go to 5%, which is crazy. That's not going to probably happen. But if they did go to 5%, housing prices are going to go up exponentially. And so you're much better off buying at this kind of not depressed, but settled down market. I mean, you're not paying over, you're paying probably a little bit less. And then refinancing when rates go down, way better to buy right now than it would be to wait until rates go down.
We had this past week, every month we do first-time homebuyer seminars, investment property seminars. We had our investment property 101 seminar that we do in person at our Bloomington office location. Also, we stream it live on social media. Mike, this week we probably had 10 to 12 other investors there, some who are currently renting, and they were looking at maybe buying their first home, a duplex, 3-unit, 4-unit. What's the new product that came out, or the new thing about investment property?
Well, it's not. It's a lot of people call it investment property, but on the mortgage side of things, it's still a primary residence. You have to live in one of the units. So one of the changes that came out with conventional loans is that you can buy a duplex, triplex, or fourplex with as little as 5% down on a conventional loan.
Got it.
Right. So that's one of the changes. The rule now is on a duplex, you'd have to have 15% down. On a triplex and a fourplex, you'd have to have 25% down. They moved all of them down to 5% down.
Wow.
Huge change, right? But you do have to live in one of the units, right? You do have to live in one of the units in order to buy a duplex, triplex, or fourplex with the 5% down. This goes into effect November 18th, I believe it is. So it's not available right now, but it's coming down the pipeline pretty soon here. And it's going to be a big change because how many buyers have you guys worked with where they're looking for that duplex with, you know, that other unit to help offset their payment?
Sure. Yeah, we're up against the break here at the final break at the Minnesota Real Estate Show. Before we do, we've got one other listing. David Meyer has a great one in Eagan, 1621 City View Drive in Eagan for $250,000. And it's a very nice end unit tucked into the development of a convenient Eagan location. David says abundance of wildlife, cozy up to the wood burning fireplace. It's got a comfortable living space, well-maintained primary bedroom, has a half bath, lower level family room, private patio. David says great value for the money. Check that one out again, 1621 City View Drive in Eagan for $250,000. This is the Minnesota Real Estate Show. Well, thanks for joining us, everybody. Steve, last thoughts for people. We appreciate you being here as always. Great to hear more people are doing home inspections.
Yeah, if you are a buyer, I would suggest standing firm on the need to get it inspected. We're beginning to hear a lot of stories, sad stories about people who purchased and waived the inspection and then discovered interesting things later on. So stand firm on getting that house inspected. Remember, knowledge is power, and you don't want to give up any power during that time.
You know, we had talked, and we never really even looked into these numbers, but when this kind of started a couple of years ago, where there were 30, 40 offers and everybody was waiving everything and et cetera, that we thought there would be quite a bit of arbitration.
Yeah.
I wonder if arbitration has gone up. It'd be interesting to look into that, because my thought was that because the mindset of a buyer is sellers know everything. So if they go in and they get water in their basement, they're going to take the seller to arbitration because they think the seller knew they had water. And of course, we know that's not the case. But whenever you don't have an inspection and then you have a problem, human nature is to blame the other person. So I would think that's gone up.
Is there a statute of limitations on being able to file?
Yeah, there is.
180 days, isn't it?
Yeah, I believe it's 2 years.
So-
2 years.
Yeah, so at
Yeah, I
some
would think
point,
within the 2-year frame, then you're going to be seeing an uptick.
at some point, Mike, you brought some good points up in the first half of the show. Again, why buy now? With your mortgage team, have you seen the 20% drop that we, in the real estate world have seen? I mean, is it at least that?
Yeah, like year to date, I would say we're probably right at 20% lower, 15 to 20% lower in closed loans this year versus last year.
Got it. And thoughts moving forward?
You'd like more.
Yeah, I'd like more.
I'd like more.
I'd like more. That's
Right.
That's a thought for sure.
More would be good.
I think it's going to get a little bit worse before it gets better, to be honest with you. And I don't like to sugarcoat things. I just try to say it how it is. Could rates drift a little bit higher in general before they start going lower? Yeah, they could. But I do think the spring and next year we're actually going to see somewhat of a steady slide for rates getting for the better. Versus this year, we've kind of seen the slow, steady slide for rates getting worse. So I think it's going to be good next year. I think the spring market is going to be super busy, just like it typically is always every single year. And it's just, what does this winter look like? Could get a little bit slower here, but we'll obviously have to see.
Yeah, and I think that I was just talking to one of my sellers yesterday that, obviously there's crickets chirping. Rates went, in 3 or 4 days went to 8.25, 8.5. So things shut down, and so activity shut down. But I told her that, look, when rates went from 3% to 6%, we had a 2 or 3 week low. That's just the way people think. They see it, they get shocked, and then it settles in as just more of a norm.
Here we go. I'm going back live on air. Welcome back to the Minnesota Real Estate Show. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We appreciate it. Hope your weekend is going well. We are a local real estate team. We help people buy homes, sell homes, invest in real estate. If you're listening to the show and you need a top agent to help you do a market analysis on your property, someone who knows your city, your neighborhood, your community, your school district, please don't hesitate to reach out. mnrealestateshow.com is how you can get involved with our team. We've got top agents on our team really all over Minnesota and Western Wisconsin. Before we dive back in, we had one last listing, guys. Ryan Doroti has one in Bloomington, 4524 West 88th Street for $359,000. It is a West Bloomington neighborhood. It's close to Normandale Lake and the Highland Park Lake Park Reserve. It's 0.3 acre lot. It's got a flat fenced-in backyard, 3 beds on the main level, 2 baths, 2-car garage, almost 2,000 square feet. All of the updates: stainless steel appliances, 2 fireplaces, hardwood floors, new roof, stove, washing machine. Ryan's doing an open house today. Actually, he's out there right now, Saturday, 10 a.m. to 12 noon. And then tomorrow, Sunday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Be sure to check that out, 4524 West 88th Street for $359,000. You don't see a lot of stuff in West Bloomington with a 3 in front of it. So a nice property to check out.
Yeah, it totally is. And you definitely don't see a lot with the 3 in it. So that is a good price, and hopefully it sells great. Ryan's a super agent.
Yeah, we got Steve Stalock. Steve, again, longtime home inspection partner with us. Grateful for all you are doing. How can any agents listening to the show, brokers, home sellers, listeners get involved with you?
We'll get your paper and your pencil handy, and you take down my number, 952-891-4455. Otherwise, the radio show website, mnrealestateshow.com. Go look at the preferred partners. Go scroll down to home inspectors. Look for that handsome bald guy.
That's you.
That's you.
me.
That's you, buddy. That's you. Well, we appreciate you, Steve. Steve does a great job. Again, any fellow agents, brokers listening, watching, Steve is a longtime trusted professional, just does an awesome job. Scott, you've worked with him a long time, 20 years probably.
Yeah, 20 plus years. I mean, I had one other inspector that was also a very good inspector before Steve. And Steve and I met, I think, at an open house.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you did one inspection, and I thought the other inspector was good, and he is, and a lot of people use him. But as far as communication with the clients, I've not run into an inspector that has a better rapport from a teaching standpoint than Steve does.
Yeah, my whole focus is on education and trying to explain and answer questions. So yeah, that's where I focus my effort.
Yeah, really good stuff. Thank you, as always, Steve. Mike Overson, Luminate Home Loans. Again, apply with Mike is how you can connect with Mike and his team. Also, Luminate Bank. They are a local bank. A lot of good stuff going on with Luminate Bank as well, Mike.
Yeah, we have a lot of stuff on the bank side. Having a bank, we have construction loans in house, and we have, portfolio loans in house, and we have all this stuff, checking, savings, all the fun stuff there. So it's great to have that as our backbone now. As far as moving forward goes, don't let these interest rates scare you. We talked earlier before. It's not like we've never seen 8% interest rates ever in history, right? It's actually pretty common. If you look at the average 30-year fix in the last 40 years, the average is 8.25.
Yeah.
And we're right there at the average. So don't let it scare you. If you like the house and you want the house, if the payment is affordable for you, there's nothing wrong with buying in today's market.
Well, no, you just gave an example of a $400,000 house with a $15,000 seller paid contribution to a buy down, and your payment was $2,500 and some change. Try to go rent a 2-bedroom apartment for that, right? I mean, you can, but they're not great. I mean, and that's what you're paying.
Had a question, guys, about, again, question for the real estate show. Why do so many listing agents minimize the garage space? They brag up the nice garage, workshop space, but 0 pics of the garage interior. I get it. Most sellers have garages chucked full of stuff. Speaking as a guy, thoughts on that one?
That's why. Typically, except for just a few, and when you've got a house, like I have a house listed for $2 million in Eagan, the garage is exceptional, and it's clean, and so we've got pictures of the garage. But the majority of the time, when you're the seller and they're decluttering, one of the first things they're going to ask is it okay if we put boxes in the garage? And it is if it's neat, as long as people can still see the the volume size of the garage. But yeah, it's not typically something that agents take pictures of. It just isn't.
Yeah, he's like, throw us some crumbs, give us some love, send us something. You know what I mean? Some pictures. Just know what we're dealing with, Mike.
You look at my garage right now, 4 kids. I mean, you got
Yes.
bikes, you got bikes and you got this and you got that hanging all over the place, right? And our boys got their sidewalk chalk and their water guns, spread around. It's just, if a spot's going to be messy, the garage is the best place to have the messiness, So
Yeah, we had 7 in our household. We had a 3-car garage, and I think we had 1 car parked in the garage.
Yeah, right.
You got hockey nets and you got crap everywhere, and then every once in a while you go in and you clean it out and you feel good, and when it was about 3 days later, it's all jacked up again.
Yeah, Mike, last thoughts for people here again, heading home.
Yep. Experienced agents, experienced loan officers, they'll never be more valuable than what they are now to come up with ideas, just kind of like we spoke about the rate buy down deal. Their experience will help you get in the best position on that house purchase. So using a price reduction or using any sort of money you can get from the seller in the right way is a big deal right now, because it'll help lower your payment, and the experienced agents and loan officers can help you with that.
Yeah, applywithmike.com. Encourage you to plug in with Mike. Scott, last thoughts?
No, just enjoy the weekend. Again, really good time to buy over the next 3 months. So if you're a buyer with nothing to sell, perfect. If you're a buyer with something to sell, it's still really good.
Yeah, really good stuff. We do appreciate you tuning into the show each week. It's been a fun one. Every Saturday, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. We are live here at WCCO throughout the week. If you want to call us, 612-294-6949, and it comes right to our office. Again, if you are a buyer, seller, investor, you have questions, know we're here to help you as the #1 RE/MAX team in Minnesota. Enjoy the rest of the weekend. Take care. Thanks for joining us on social media. We do appreciate it. Guys, we got some cold weather coming up.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward. I am looking forward to the Monday night game though against San Francisco.
Yeah, Vikes are playing Monday night. We'll be back next week. Good job, guys.
Good job.